Hi guys, welcome back to Nyx Reads. I am, for the first time ever, participating in Nonfiction November, which is a great reading challenge started by a Book Olive. I saw what a great community the Book Olive has created around this challenge, and I wanted to participate in it myself this year. If you've never heard of Nonfiction November before, the goal is to highlight, emphasize nonfiction literature within this month, and you can participate by even just reading one nonfiction book in the month of November. And now I want to share the TBR that I put together for myself. So feel free to subscribe if you want to see how I do with this challenge. And if you just love bookish content and adding new books to your TBR by watching other people's videos. So I came up with this strategy for my own Nonfiction November where I'm going to focus on the books that I actually already own physically in my bookshelf and I've never gotten to, plus some audiobooks that I'm already on the waiting list for on the library, which I've been putting off for weeks now. Additionally, a Book Olive always has prompts that you can fulfill that can inspire you to find the books to put on your TBR. And these are 4 words that you can categorize your books in, which it can be interpreted pretty freely. So the 4 words this year are record, secret, border, and element. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna throw in 3 nonfiction book recommendations for you guys. So from my bookshelf, the first book on my TBR will be An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth by Colonel Chris Hadfield. This was a personal recommendation by an ex-colleague from a company that I worked for before, and it looks like that in this book he goes into his years of training and the actual space exploration, and apparently the reader is supposed to be kind of look at life on Earth through a different lens after reading this. So I have absolutely no clue what to expect from this, but because it was a personal recommendation, I hope it's gonna be good, and we'll see. Maybe it's gonna be a surprise. And the word that I assigned to this book is record, because I interpret this as a record of Chris Hadfield's accomplishments. The next book I picked up on a whim on the big library sale that I went to in spring, which I'm gonna link the video if you want to watch that. It's Committed by Elizabeth Gilbert. The tagline is, "A skeptic makes peace with marriage." I have read the infamous Eat, Pray, Love by this author years and years ago. I think I must have been either in middle or high school, and I remember really liking it, and I have watched the movie multiple times. For some reason, it's become one of my comfort movies that I always tend to go back to. So this picks up after the events of Eat, Pray, Love, when she picks up her life with Felipe, the Brazilian-Australian man she meets. I vaguely know that since then her life has changed tremendously, but nevertheless this was part of her real-life biography, so I wanted to see if I still like her writing style, if this moves me. And without knowing too much about what is exactly going to happen in this book, the word that I choose for this book is border. I interpret it as crossing the border from being single to being a married woman, being a married person, because I imagine it is very different. The third physical book I want to get to is Julie and Julia by Julie Powell. This is also from the library sale, and I am a bit scared to go into this. So if you've watched my channel, you know that My Life in France by Julia Child was a 5-star read for me this year. You will 100% see it on my best of 2022 list, which, by the way, I 100% recommend that book as a nonfiction choice for November if you're at all interested in the culinary world or just living abroad. It is an amazing book, so obviously I have to recommend that one to you. I do like the movie that is inspired by both this book and My Life in France. I was curious to pick this up, but since then I noticed that the reviews are quite mixed for this. Essentially, Julie Powell makes it her project to cook all of the recipes in Mastering the Art of French Cooking, which is the huge tome recipe book that Julia Child transformed America with and bringing the French cuisine to American kitchens. She took all of the recipes and challenged herself to cook everything within a year, and she wrote a blog about it, which is how she got to this book deal. And this is basically recounting her experiences during that time. I hope I'm gonna like it. And the word I chose is element, because I imagine Julia Child and then maybe also Julie Powell later on, but also me, feeling like, okay, I'm in my element when I'm cooking. And I say me because one one true love besides reading books is cooking and baking. Actually, I do it a lot. I love it. And that's what I feel like when I'm in the kitchen. So that is the word I choose. And an ebook that I've had on my waiting list is Beyond the Gender Binary by Alok Vaid-Menon. This is a relatively short work. It might just be a long essay, in fact, on the gender non-binary identity. This book was put on my radar by booktuber Leo Bancroft. I'm gonna put his channel in my description below, along with any other booktuber that I mention. And he has great book recommendations, especially for LGBTQ plus topics and books. The word that I choose for this book, based on the introduction that I've already read, is secret. Because very tragically, what the author mentions is that they felt like they had to hide their identity, their true self, and make it a secret, which is really sad, but I think that is the word that I would choose for this. The next audiobook I just randomly saw on my Libby app, and I thought it was so not out of my comfort zone, but it seems like a topic that I would never usually pick up, so I just put it on my list, and now's the time to get to it. It's Gathering Moss, A Natural and Cultural History of Mosses by Robin Wall Kimmerer. And I say this because I don't really identify as a huge nature-bound person, and I would have never thought that I'm gonna pick up a book about mosses, but the book just sounded very peaceful, and it sounds like the nature writing is really gonna immerse me in a completely different world. And the author, who actually holds a doctorate degree, she is actually an associate professor of environmental and forest biology. So I guess that this is also going to be a very scientifical approach. But again, judging from the introduction that I heard, it's also going to be quite spiritual, because what I didn't realize is that she's actually also of Native American descent. So Potawatomi. And the word that I assigned to this book is, of course, element, as in the element of earth. The other audiobook that I have lined up is Ask Me About My Uterus by Abby Norman. The tagline is a quest to make doctors believe in women's pain. And I think that line says it all. At least that's what sold me. I don't even know anything else about this book, but that caught my attention. I am sure that this is gonna enrage me, but hopefully, I really hope that it's also gonna be hopeful and informative. And the word that I associate with this book is record, because I interpret it as the author went on record with how she is mistreated in this healthcare system. These are the 6 books that I have on my TBR for November. I try to keep it as little as possible and really stick to the books that I already own. So it's maybe not completely impossible, but a lot can happen. Then I wanted to quickly throw in 3 book recommendations that I have for you of books that I really liked this year. The first one is Invisible Women, Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez. This one, I couldn't stop talking about it to other people around me while I was reading it, because I was just so shocked and in disbelief of what I was reading. This nonfiction really brings to light on how data, or non-gender disaggregated data, can really discriminate and affect the health and well-being and lives of women. And one way to assign a prompt for this book is border, because I see it as gender inequality creates a border. And I also really recommend We Have Always Been Here, a queer Muslim memoir by Samra Habib. This is a very moving memoir by the author, who encompasses growing up in a Muslim community and family and then immigrating to Canada, basically dealing with discrimination, identity crisis, and even forced marriage. So this is really something that touched me, and I would like for you guys to pick this up as well. And the word that I'm assigning to this is actually inspired by a sentence that I read in the summary, which is a testament to the power of fearlessly inhabiting one's true self. It is element, because I interpret this again as being in your element and finding yourself. And lastly, I think it's a good idea to listen to this book. It's Taste My Life Through Food by Stanley Tucci. This was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. Again, it's about food. This is the actor's memoir told through food, and this is how he basically goes through stories about his Italian heritage family. It is funny, it is heartwarming, it's emotional, And most of all, it will make your mouth water and it will make your stomach grumble. And the word for this book is secret, because I see it as, what is the secret ingredient to an amazing dish? And this book talks a lot about recipes and ingredients, so that is how I interpret it. So this was my nonfiction November TBR plus a few recommendations for you. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I just mentioned and if you agree with my interpretations for the prompts. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see how I like these books, and I'll see you guys next time.